So to give a bit of backstory, just so everyone knows, we run events like this all over the world. We have a bigger version of this called Music Cities Convention. Just keep coming up with synonyms of the word convention. And then that event brings in speakers from all over the world, and we wanted to do a much more kind of city-focused version of this, where we could talk, where one city could have a really intense discussion about what is needed in that particular city, with a couple national and international speakers thrown in. So we have guests from Denver, Atlanta, Austin, Memphis, and London, not just me, one other person. And you'll hear from them throughout the day, as well as speakers from Indianapolis. So thank you again to Josh for hosting us. It's my first time in Indianapolis. Apparently I'm getting the best weather you've ever had. It's really nice. And what I'm going to do very, very briefly before we start the panel is just explain to you what a music strategy is and explain to you kind of some of the things that we do around the world so that it can provide a little bit of context as to how this could potentially work in Indianapolis. Because every single city is different, obviously, and what works here is what works here. So let's see if this works. Oh, that's me. That's me too. I usually don't get called doctor unless I'm angry at the bank or trying to get upgraded on a flight. So Sound Diplomacy, we're based in London, Berlin, and Barcelona. We work globally with cities and governments around the world on music policy and strategy. We work for the United Nations, Mayor of London, City of San Francisco, lots of other things. But the whole point is that music needs to be treated the same way as any other city policy. I see music as infrastructure. To me, music is as important as our schools, our roads, and our hospitals. And the analogy that I think of is think about a garden, right? If we're trying to grow vegetables, we need to understand the nutrient quality in the soil first. If we understand the quality of the soil, then we can plant things in the right place. We can nurture those seedlings so that they grow and eventually fruit. I see a music ecosystem in the same way. If we have to understand the soil. We have to understand our ecosystem. And every single city has a different one. That's not just industry development. That's the role of music on society. It's our health and well-being. It's music education. It's engagement with government and third-party government organizations like Indy Chamber and VisitIndy and so on and so forth. So this is something that I always say. Music makes things better. And music is our only universal language. We all speak music. But yet, music is kind of overlooked from a policy perspective. It's just there, right? And it's always going to be there. And I disagree. If we don't understand it and nurture it and constantly evaluate it as a whole, across every genre, across every element in the ecosystem, from live music to education to so on and so forth, we kind of call it from nursery to nursing home, is what we say, then we're not understanding the economic, social, and cultural value of music. So what is a music strategy in general? So it's kind of 5 key pillars, which I'm not going to read off the screen. Can everyone read and see? Good. Okay. The most important that I always see is this one. Measure, 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 repeat. A music policy is a process. There's no end game here. We don't just write a report and then that report sits on the shelf and hopefully everything changes. That's not going to happen. It doesn't work. A music policy is like any other thing. If a road has a pothole in it, we're going to have to fix the pothole, right? We're not going to get rid of the road or ignore it. And understanding that when a city engages in a music policy, like it does with a general cultural policy, it's a constant process that needs reordering and rethinking. And it comes down to what we call public realm, so our public squares, our festival sites, and so on and so forth. The literal infrastructure, using music as an engagement tool, so that's tourism, we call it music tourism, but introducing other people from either a business or cultural reason why they should communicate with, participate, come to Indianapolis. And music policy also builds trust. It builds trust between governments, artists, and everyone in between. If there's accountability, even when things are wrong, if there's accountability, it builds, over time, it builds trust. So what I don't like the term music cities, even though I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's true because every city is a music city. Indianapolis is one. It's about music policy city, is more what I think about. And what we look at is understanding what a thriving music scene is, and understanding, obviously, the role of artists and musicians and so on and so forth, and the role of music in growth. Austin still is the fastest growing city in the US, above 1 million people as of last year. And they declared themselves, right, live music capital of the world. There has been some math to this, by the way, and I know Austin's in this room. Some people did math about the concept of live music capital of the world, and it may or may not be Austin. There are other cities that claim this, but I think that their math is skewed to make them claim as live music capital of the world. And why is a music policy important? I'm sure most of you guys in this room, you're here because I'm preaching to the choir, but my goal is to enlarge the choir, right? And it's not just the development of a city brand, the economic impact that shows from music. Think for a minute about every single job and skill that the Hi-Fi Club incubates. I see this music venue as an innovation hub. I see this music venue as a skills and jobs incubator. From door person to security to hospitality to sound to lights to the artist performing on stage to legal to accounting to design, all of that. Those are all jobs that wouldn't exist without this place. And we have to understand the value chain of music, understand its economic long tail to show that music is of significant economic and then also cultural and social value. And what we say is validating music as a respected industry like any other, like food and beverage, like tech, like agribusiness, all of that. We are no better, we're the same, and we deserve the same due diligence from a policy perspective. So some of the things that can be done, that we have done. So I live in London, I have for a long time. I'm not allowed to use swear words here that I use there, I've discovered. And but one of the things that we've been working on is developing a music board for the mayor, which is actually meeting today, so I'm in a bit of trouble, but someone else is doing it. But the mayor in London has an advisory board, so when we work with the city, we try to understand that there needs to be either a human being or a few human beings that are accountable to the mayor's office and all the other organizations. We also work to develop what's called a night czar, or a nighttime mayor, which looking after your nighttime economy and evening economy is very important, and you need legitimacy and you need a policy perspective from that. And then we work on music policy as well. From a music tourism perspective, we've created a London Music Month, which is called Sounds Like London. And we've also done some work in Cuba on the other side. This is based on artistic development and artist development. We've worked with the United Nations on a music policy for Cuba, and we're trialing it in Santiago de Cuba, a city, to develop a music-focused policy there. We're building schools, we're building music hubs, and it's an interesting place when you do that with no internet. Very little internet. So how do we do this again? It's a process. So first, recognize it, which I think is the whole point of today. Recognize the value of music. Then we have to map it. We have to understand where it is in its value chain. We have to measure, assess, and evaluate it. We have to figure out how much it's worth, because you need those statistics, which we can do. And then what we call plan, strategize, and celebrate, right? Celebrate the festivals, celebrate the things like Girls Rock, celebrate music education, celebrate music and health and well-being, and make more friends nationally and internationally. It's really, really important. The people in this room that aren't from Indianapolis are, use them as sponges. They've all have fantastic experience working across the cities that I've spoken, and had successes and challenges like all of us. So that is it. That's my email address if anyone wants to get in touch. Obviously, you're going to be sick of me by the end of the day, so I apologize. But this is the first time that we've ever essentially started the process of developing a strategy by doing an event. So this is our town hall meeting. And we want to make sure that everyone buys in to doing this because it benefits everyone. Not just everyone in this room, everyone in Indianapolis, and maybe other cities as well, in Indiana. So please, any questions, any comments, any criticisms, any thoughts? I know that there's been some surveys going around as well. Please let us know, because this is why we're doing this. We're doing this because in 10 years from now, this work has to have brought benefit to everyone in this room and everyone in Indianapolis. That's really, really important to me. So thank you guys so much. I hope that's been